I was sitting out in my backyard on Saturday, and I have just an average-sized backyard, but I have a lot of beautiful trees and bushes, and I was just sitting in the chair, and the sun was on me, and I was just being open to God and breathing and feeling. Really, God inspired me with the title of the lesson today, and that is, how are you choosing to interact with your reality? A fundamental, just a small topic, Should be able to cover it in 10 minutes with room for other things. But how are you choosing to interact with your reality? And I think the first thing we need to do is we need to talk about a few parts of that are pretty intense. And the first thing is, how are you choosing, which means you have a choice. And the second thing is, what is reality? And reality is, I like to say reality is basically the current state of affairs in your life. All the different aspects of your life and where they're at right now. Because it's not where it was, 10 minutes ago or 10 seconds ago or 10 nanoseconds ago or whatever you want to break it down to. And it's not where it's going to be 10 seconds from now. It's where's it at right now, and how are you choosing to be involved with that? And as I was laying in that chair, I was thinking, wow, this is great. I'm in the sun, and I'm feeling the warmth, and these hummingbirds went by my face, and the flowers and the trees were just emanating this amazing oxygen and green energy, and I was like, wow, this is such an amazing reality. And I was so appreciative of it. And it wasn't that I was appreciative of any specific thing or any specific moment, or I wasn't having any type of, I needed a certain thing or I expected a certain thing. I was just really experiencing it for exactly what it was and able to appreciate it. And I think what was the point of that was that when God gave me the title of the talk, and I was, of course, relieved, because it's always nice to know a little bit before, because last time I had absolutely no clue. This time I got it like a day before. This is a great reality. And I realized that it was great because I was choosing to see it for exactly what it was. As I looked around me, true, there was no offensive nature in the reality at that time. There was no one screaming at me, yelling at me. I wasn't trying to pay a bill. I wasn't trying to get through traffic. I wasn't engaging in all those challenges that are normally part of life. But I think what it showed me is that this underlying reality that I was able to experience in that moment is always present. It's always there. And it made me realize that when I quieted my mind, when I quieted myself, when I took myself, for necessity's sake, out of all situations that tend to pull me out of that, it was there. And I wasn't trying to create it, and I wasn't trying to make it, and I wasn't putting effort into it, and I wasn't doing anything proactively, which is key. Because the minute you become proactive in doing something, most times, unless you're coming from a space of total centeredness, you're kind of screwing yourself up on some level. When you're moved to do something, when you're inspired to do something, when you feel called to do something, that's different. That's usually pulling you in a direction of God, pulling you closer to God. When you want to do something, when you need to do something, when you have to do something, usually it's you doing this to God. I'll get back to you. I got to take care of this stuff, and then I'll get back to what's giving me life. And we don't want to take time to acknowledge that. We want to think that we're doing it. We want to think that we're responsible. We want to think that we have this list of things we have to get done on a daily basis that makes us okay. And so the first thing I want to talk about as we look at this concept of how are you interacting with your reality is, let's just be honest with ourselves, and don't make this list in your mind, in your consciousness, that you think is a good list, that you think is what, Dr. Jordan wants to hear, or God, for that matter, wants to hear. What's the truth? Because if you can't be truthful and honest with yourself, if you can't be in a space of truth and honesty, no matter how uncomfortable it may make you feel, you're never going to get to the bottom of what's really going on. You're going to live in this amazing reality that some of us live in a lot and some of us live in a little, but all of us live in on some level, called denial. Denial is, I am the center of the universe. I am the one making it all happen. I am the one that's keeping it all together, and it's because I'm doing all this. Won't even use the word that it's all staying the way it's supposed to be. So let's take ourselves out of denial for a second, and let's accept ourselves as being perfect just the way we are. Even if we are aware of some type of dysfunction in ourselves, which, if anyone's totally conscious, they are, There's something about themselves, and we'll call it dysfunction or something you can't understand, something you can't be at peace with. Let's just put that all into the same basket, okay? And let's say, okay, let's just look at those things and see, in the light of those things, what is really important in your day? Okay, what do you really rank as numero uno? Okay? So let's take a second and, in all honesty, let that idea come into our mind and let that first thing on the list come into our mind. And I'm gonna share what mine is with you at this moment, because I'm gonna be totally honest and truthful in front of you, because if I'm not, then I am not in my truth. And if I can't be in my truth, I have absolutely no right standing up in front of here telling you that you should try and get into yours. So I'm going to bare my soul, and I want you guys to think about yours. So let's think about what's just number one. Okay. And if something didn't come into your mind immediately, then you're blocking it. So everyone just take one of those amazing breaths and just let it go, and just let that truth just come into your mind. And whatever it is, don't judge it, and don't say, oh, I want another one, or can I switch it? You know, no, it is what it is. Great. Okay? Now, how many people's truth was what they wanted it to be, in all honesty? How many is exactly what they wanted it to be? Yeah. Okay, we have one. Okay? Two, a couple of them, okay? Yeah, liars. Just kidding. Just kidding. That's great. That's great. But I can tell you what mine was, and, you know, I could come up with a lot of them that I would want it to be. You know, oh, I want it to be at peace and serve God. And that's a lot of what my life is. Don't get me wrong. You know, that's a lot of what my life is. But I have to be honest, in my reality right now, okay, what that truth was I want to please you all. Okay? And I got to say it because it's true. And I would want it to be something, and you're thinking, wow, this guy was really he really told us the truth. You know? He wasn't saying it was like some highfalutin thing. He was like really honest and said, yeah, I really want to please you all. Okay? And isn't that neat? And look at that one pattern, and it's very evident. I want to please you all. It means something to me that you all like me. It means something to me that you all care about me, and that you all think I'm saying something fun or neat or inspiring, and are going to walk out of here saying, you know, that guy, you know, he was okay, you know? If you can't get to that place of honesty with yourself, you'll never ever know what God's true mission is for you. You'll never ever be able to get out of your own way and truly embrace what the mission really is. Because if I am living the mission that I think it is, which is to please you, okay, am I ever going to get to the mission that I'm really supposed to get to? No. I'm going to keep doing what I think I need to do to get that number one off the list. And then there'll be a number 2 on the list, and a number 3 on the list, and a number 4 on the list. And they'll all be basically the same thing. They'll just be a different way of wording it. They'll all be taking me again in this direction. And that's one of the reasons why when I come up in front of people, I can't have a preconceived message. And it helps me, it helps me work on myself to not be prepared for when I come in front of people. Because if I am, then I'm going to tell you what I want to tell you. I'm going to tell you what I want my number 1 to be. You follow? I'm going to say, you know, this is what you need to do. You know, world according to Keith, right? Which is like holds little value, to be honest with you. As it should for all of you. I mean, you know, what we think is a very small amount of what really is. So, you know, it's important, but don't give it too much value. However, if I can come in front of you and say, you know, number 1 on my list is pleasing you. And I think a lot of you on some level, when I said that, I saw a lot of relief. Because on some level, a lot of you are living life for that same reason. We live our life to sustain these relationships and to make people happy and to have this love that we think we need from people and to have this connection that we think we need with people. And our life becomes all about people, okay? And when our life becomes all about people, it becomes interdependent upon people. And it becomes interdependent upon other people's ability to be in the same space we are and to reciprocate, okay? We have this expectation for everyone else to validify us and make us feel good, make us feel like we're wanted. Okay, let's just take a situation. Someone's coming into this church today, and you know, who's got something going on in their life? Right? You know, we all do, okay? So we come in, and let's say I have this expectation that I really need this person to make me feel wanted. You know, I really want to please this person. I want them to show that I've pleased them by clapping. Okay, they're going to clap for me, all right? And I'm centered on this person, you know. We'll make it this lady right here. And I'm centered on it. And I'm like, you know, God, I really want her to clap when I'm done. And all of a sudden, I get done speaking, and she's maybe looking through her flyer or getting ready to do something for the center, or she's thinking about God, or maybe she's truly inspired by what I said, and she's just not present with me at the moment. And she doesn't clap. Okay? I've got all these people clapping. Okay? But in my mind, I didn't please her. I didn't meet my mark. She's not clapping. She may be very happy and very satisfied with what I've said. Okay? It's not the point. The point is she wasn't able to demonstrate it. She wasn't able to show it. And because of that, I felt I failed. Okay, the big F word. I failed. Okay. Or I didn't meet my mark, or I wasn't good enough, or I need to try harder, or any of that stuff. Okay. But who did I miss in focusing on that? Everybody else who was clapping. Right? Everybody else was clapping. And what I like to tell you is, when you think about this, is that any relationship in your life that you are focusing on, okay, too much, is not a healthy thing, because it gives that relationship way too much power. And it may be work, okay? We could, in our list of things, we can say, it could be money, it could be work, it could be children. Once you make that hierarchy what controls your life, what kind of decisions are you going to make to interact with your reality? Are you going to make really free will, good, love-based decisions? Are you going to make very motivational-based decisions to accomplish those tasks? Right? You're going to make the ones you're going to make to accomplish those tasks. You're not going to make ones that come from the heart. You're going to make very directed, okay? Like I would have made a directed decision had I come in and said, we're going to talk about, diet or whatever. Now, point being, if you do that, you shut off the rest of the world that's clapping for you. You shut off everything else in your life that is doing good. You shut off all the things that you're wonderful at, that you may even know you are, all the things that you're great at, all the things that you're succeeding in, all the people that you are having loving, caring relationships with. And what I like to make the analogy of, what you're doing is you're literally shutting out God. You are looking at ego, and you're shutting out God, because God really is an ego. Ego is everything but God, in my opinion. It's everything that keeps you from God. So you're shutting out all the ways that God's showing you you're awesome, And you're looking at the one thing about yourself that you think isn't right. Whether you're seeing it through a relationship, or you're seeing it through a work situation, or you're seeing it through a pain or a physical dysfunction or whatever. And you're missing the entire clapping aspect of your life. Because if you don't get to be in front of people like I am and I do, and you don't have people clapping, you don't see that, sometimes you start to wonder, are they really clapping, And you start to have that self-doubt. Are they really clapping? And again, once you do that, you're going to start making bad choices with how you interact with your reality. You're going to start making fear-based decisions. You're going to start making worry or not being in control. You're going to try and make a situation happen so that you can feel it. You're going to try and make a situation happen so you can feel successful. But what really happens in those moments after you do that? You feel it and you have that moment, but then what happens? It goes away, doesn't it? It fades. Maybe it lasts for an hour, or a day, or a week, but after a while it starts to fade. And you find yourself back in that same rut of trying to make it happen again. Trying to make a certain amount of money so you can say I'm okay financially. Or trying to make a certain relationship loving so you can say I can do this. Or trying, and your life becomes this. And every once in a while you get this, little glimmer of light where it's like, oh, God's there. It's a God moment. God's there. Oh, lights are going. Angels are singing. Oh, you're dancing around. And then what happens? Do you think that God created this reality for us to engage in because he wants us to? If you do, then, it's a great line from a movie. He's a cruel guy with a magnifying glass. He just happens to be pointing it on you in that moment. We are products of love. I'm going to keep hammering home that message. We are products of God's love. If you love somebody, do you want them to have a good time? Do you want them to have fun? Do you want them to be abundant? Do you want them to have great relationships? Do you want them to enjoy their life? Of course you do. You don't say, oh, I love you so much. I want the best for you, Now go ahead and suffer. We choose that. We choose that suffering. okay? And not that there's not meaning in it or lessons in it, and not that we can't grow from it. I'm not saying, the whole thing about life is never to suffer. It's to say, I am suffering because I am not incongruent with that love that God has for me. And in that incongruency is a lesson. And I can choose, remember the beginning of the talk, I can choose to acknowledge that there's a lesson, and if I am in truth, second thing we talked about, it will come to me. But if you're not in truth, it's not going to come. So within the lesson, there's another lesson. All lessons are based on truth and honesty. If you are not open to be truthful and honest with yourself, you're never going to get it. Why? Because that's what creates the loving feeling that is creating us. Truth and honesty. If you can't reach that point within yourself, you are never going to get the answers that are coming from that source. Because you know why? Because you don't want to hear them. You don't want to hear the truth, if you're not open to that space. You don't want to hear it, because the truth may say, why am I having a problem with my job? Okay. The truth may be because they're not treating you with enough self-esteem, they're not respecting you, and a lot of people in your life have treated you that way, including your daughter and your son and a husband and your father. And you don't want to come to grips with the fact that you've been letting yourself get cockeyed all over your entire life, and you really need to step up and say, I'm worth more than this, and I'm not going to take it anymore, and I'm going to look for a new job, and I'm going to look for new relationships, and I'm going to not let people treat me that way. And you know what? I'm going to love myself. Even if it means I'm going to be alone sometimes. Woo! The big alone word came up, didn't it? You were all with me until that point. Everyone was with me. We are all running down the street. Yeah, we're going to do it. Alone? Whoa, buddy. Wait a minute now. You didn't tell me that. Kind of threw that in, kind of the fine print. You may be alone. Y'all just signed the contract and then went, what are you doing to me? Yeah, you may be alone. But the beautiful part about it is, even in that moment of aloneness, when you're going through this refinement of relationships within your life, and this truth and this honesty, and you're crying and you're weeping and you're going, God, show me the truth. I want to know. I want to be in congruency with you, since you are the giver of my life, and it isn't my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, my work. I want to know. And then when you know, you got to make those changes. Because let me tell you something. This comes from somebody who definitely knows this. And I always talk about it with everybody. Once you know, you know. You can't go back and say, don't want to know, wish I didn't know, delete, reverse, rewind the tape. No. Life is a stream of consciousness. And once you become conscious of something, boom. I use the R word, and I use it figuratively, not like, you're going to get hurt or punished if you don't, but you're responsible. You've then got to live up to that reality and say, okay, how do I go forward with this being in mind now? How do I integrate this into my life? How do I integrate this new information into all these relationships in my life and make these changes happen? And some will happen really quick and some will happen really slow, but at least you'll be integrating a change that will move you forward in some way. And, most importantly, you'll be being honest with yourself, okay? So let's go back and let's talk about an example of this. All right, so let's say, and I do this all day long, and it's, I always tell people, some people come in and they see me once, and they never come back and see me again. And it's because I tell people the truth. And, people respect me for that, and a lot of people really love me for that. And a lot of people just kind of get put off. And it's not me. I'm coming from a loving place. I talk to them the way I talk to all of you right now. I'm not putting anybody down or saying they're wrong, I just say, listen, this is what's really going on, and until you address these things in your life, a whole lot's not going to change. And if that's okay with you, it's cool with me. I'm not living in your reality. You know what I mean? I'm not living in your skin. If you like it that way, fine, but why did you wait 12 months to see me if you were so happy with it? So, we go from there. And most people, though, accept it and realize that, my intention is to help people be all they can be for God. I have I'm so blessed. And I realized a long time ago in my life that I was blessed with a wonderful family. I was blessed with wonderful parents, wonderful siblings. God gave me a really good roll of the dice this time around. I'm not going to lie to you. And immediately upon realizing that, I realized that my duty was to give back to humanity, to help other people create a better roll of their dice, to help other people realize that this is possible, and that just because I had these opportunities, it wasn't why it happened. It was the congruence within God that showed me what I could become that helped it happen. And that's possible for everybody, not just a Keith thing. And so I don't have a premeditated reason why I help people. I help people because it's just who I am, and everyone who knows me and comes to see me know and that's what helps me be the intuitive. I don't really care. I love y'all, even the ones I don't know, but I don't really care about you. I can't care. If I care about you, then I'm all tied into all your outcomes and all these possible things that are on your list, you follow? What you think needs to happen, what you think needs to be accomplished, what you think needs to go. I can't care about that, because if I do, I'm on your ride, and I'm like next to you in the car, and we're both lost driving around, left, right, I don't know, where do you think we should go? I can't be tied into that. So I try and bring a level of understanding through me into people that helps them see outside themselves and makes them go, why the heck am I doing that? What? That's like I tell people, you walk through a door and a bucket of water spills on your head, okay? And you walk through a door and another bucket of water spills on your head. And you walk through a door and another bucket of water spills on your head. God, at some point, at least put an umbrella up. And then realize, I don't want to go there anymore. I'm always getting wet. What else do I need to learn except that I'm getting wet when I walk through that door? Certain experiences I want you to be aware of in life that you are choosing, back to the beginning again, you're always ending up wet. You're always going through the same silly scenarios again and again and again. Well, some of those are beyond your control, so to speak. Some of them are just, I need this job, or I'm in this situation, and you've painted some things that make them kind of concrete and hard to change. I'll give you that. However, what you can bring to that situation is a different choice of reactions. How am I going to choose to react to this situation? Okay, let's take the big one, for example. I'm in a relationship with somebody, a marriage, okay, a friendship, a job, something where there's a strong, long-term bond, and there's just, you can't just say, you know what, see you later. You feel like you have to work it out, which there's lessons in that. How can I get through that? How can I deal with it? Well, first of all, look at what both people are capable of. Are they capable of being anybody else than they're being right now? Okay? If the answer is no, then they're doing the best they can do. And you need to be at peace and say, this is the best they can do. I have to have love and compassion for the fact that they struggle, they're an alcoholic, they have a bad childhood, they don't have a good marriage, whatever. You have to have compassion and that Christ love to say, it's not about me. For just a second, it's not about me. Just a second. Okay, I can see them for who they are, and I can see their struggle within God, and I can see how they can't feel what they want to feel, and they can't be who they want to be, and God, that's just making them so angry. Oh, now I know why they're angry. They're not angry at me. They're angry because they can't be happy. They're angry because they can't be fulfilled. All of a sudden, you can then choose proper reactions to them, can't you? And what reaction do you most often want to give them? A simple, it'll be okay. Don't try and solve people's problems. Just tell them it'll be okay. You just need to take a little time to think and ponder some of these things that are going on in your life. Give yourself a chance to just be aware of what's really going on. Would you like some insight as to what I think's going on? From that approach, most people are going to say, yeah, what do you think? You're not telling me I'm full of crap or I'm bad or I'm this or I'm that. You're saying it's going to be okay, which automatically lets them relax. Then you're saying, you want some insight on what I think's going on? An insight that's not based on what's going to make you happy or fulfill your list, but what's going to really help them get to a place of centeredness within God and let them feel that love and that support and make it all seem like it's okay. Great. You bring that to them. And if you ask and you pray for that insight, it'll be given to you, and you'll say some amazing things. And some amazing things will come out of your mouth like they come out of mine. And I laugh with my, I always say friends, patients, whatever you want to call them, people come to see me. And I'll open my eyes, and I'll be like laughing with them. And I'll say, they know, but I'll tell them anyway most of the time. You know that wasn't me, right? You know that wasn't me. And they'll be like, yeah, I know it wasn't you. And I'll affirm it, because I have no idea why that would really be happening in your life, right? I don't want them to give any credit to me for that information. Because if they give credit to me, then they're going to look to me. If I give credit to God, then they look to God and they realize that I was just someone God put into their life to give them this information and help them progress. Make sense? You let that information come through you, and then you become that person that God put in their life to help them get through something. Now, the neat part is that they feel better because they're like, wow, someone really just took a second to think about me and comfort me and console me and not judge me. They gave me some information that was truthful and honest because they were being truthful and honest. And I can get a little bit of a bearing. I was able to see from outside what's really going on in my life. Someone helped me. We are here to help each other in that way. Everyone needs to get looked at from outside themselves. Everyone needs that. So you help that person do that. They then take that positive interaction that they had and they can walk away saying, I'm okay, it's going to be okay, and here's some really neat things that I wasn't seeing in my life. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? And you didn't walk away going, oh God, Susie's got all these problems, how can I do it? How can I make it all okay? How can I fix it for her? Oh, my daughter, she's going through this divorce and she's unhappy and her kids and how's it going to be all right? What am I doing to fix it? Making it your responsibility. That's a bad deal. It's a bad deal for you because you're walking away with their stuff. It's a bad deal for them because they've still got it. It multiplies. You didn't resolve anything. You multiplied it. So now they've got 10 apples and you've got 10 of the same apples. And everyone's getting sick of apples. So what I'd like you to think about is the choices you're making and how you're engaging in your reality. How am I choosing to engage in this process? How am I choosing to be at peace with it? How am I choosing to be in that backyard and know that everything is okay? Everything is fine. Get to that level of stillness in your life, okay? And then the number one thing on the list will not be pleasing people, okay? It will not be making money. It will not be surviving a marriage. It will not be making my children's lives okay. It will be bringing myself to the world in a state of presence and choosing my reactions and letting them be motivated by love instead of concern, instead of fear, instead of control, instead of anger, trying to let them be motivated by a space of love. Then, who are you letting be behind those reactions? Who are you letting be behind those things you're doing in life? Is it you? No. It's God. And you are bringing God into human form and emulating it to people all around your life. You are becoming full of the Christ energy and just sharing that. And letting every reaction be based on sharing that. Sometimes you make it, sometimes you don't. But if you set the intention and you remember it just for a second that you have a choice how you're going to interact within your own reality and others, it at least opens you up to the possibility of what you can become, in which you can really be a miracle in helping to perform.